Okay, find all the factors of the polynomial. Okay, so you got your polynomial here, right? I've written it here now as f of x equals, right? Because it is a function of x. Now, they don't give us any factors, right? They don't say that given, you know, x plus 2 is a factor or anything. They don't say that. So what we need to do, right, we need to discover a factor by trial, okay? And remember then, the idea that the rule that basically if x minus a is a factor, okay, right, then f of a is equal to 0. So what we'll do, we'll just try different values now for this sort of a here, okay? And, you know, ultimately then, if we get 0 out, we know then that's a factor, okay? So we want to work out values in here, okay, for x, all right? So if I set x to equal 1 to start with, okay, and we'll see then if that comes out as 0. So f of 1, okay, sub it in, will be 3 times 1 cubed plus 2 times 1 squared minus 19 times 1 plus 6, okay? So you can use your calculator on that, right? Just to check. This one's quite simple though, isn't it? You know, that's going to be 3, that's 2, so that's 5. Add the 6 is 11, and then take away the 19 is minus 8, right? It's not equal to 0, isn't it? Okay? It's not equal to 0. So that means then, if it's not equal to 0, okay, in this case your a was 1, wasn't it? Okay, your a was 1 in there. So that means x minus 1 is not a factor, okay? So that's no good. That's no good at all. So let's try x equals, say, 2. Okay, always start with low values. Okay, it's going to be one of these. So if I put 2 in, so it'll be 3 then, x cubed, so substituting in the 2. Okay, and we get this out. So if you use a calculator then on this, right, you know, I'll do it in my head because I haven't got a calculator on me at the moment. So that's 24, that's 8, when you work that out, so that's 32, okay. And if I add the 6, that gives me 38, and then that's 38, but you've got to take it away, so that actually comes to 0. But use your calculator in the exam, okay, because you don't want to make a mistake here. But that is equal to 0, so that means this works. In other words, your a here, right, being 2, okay, makes it come out to be 0. So if your a is 2, that means x minus 2 is a factor, okay, x minus 2 is a factor. The really good way of doing it, though, I always think, right, if you've got x equals 2 here, think of this obviously as like, you know, an equation. Take the 2 over the other side, and if I take the 2 over the other side, it becomes a minus 2, doesn't it? Okay, so we've got our factor. Once you've got a factor, it really does open it up for us, okay? So now I'm going to write now 3x cubed, okay? So I can say therefore 3x cubed plus 2x squared minus 19x plus 6 equals 2. X minus 2, okay? That's one of my factors, right? So I can write it now as a product of factors, yeah? Because it divides into it, so we can write it as a product. We're going to have 2 other factors, okay? Now the 2 other factors are 2 brackets. I don't know what those 2 brackets are, okay? So if I did have 2 brackets, you could multiply out those 2 brackets using FOIL, and those 2 brackets then, when you multiply them out, would become like a quadratic, yes? So you'd have something x squared, something x, and a constant. Now, we don't know what they are, but in fact, I do know what goes in front of the x squared. I know straight away that it's going to be 3, okay? I know that. I know that because quite simply, you look at what's in front of the x cubed here. Whatever's in front of the x cubed, you put in front of the x squared there. So because it's a 3, I'm going to put 3 here. And think about it, when you multiply these brackets out, okay, when you multiply it out, x times 3x squared, that needs to be 3, doesn't it? Because when I multiply them out, I'll get then 3x cubed, which matches up there. Now I don't know what my x is, so I'm going to just call it bx, and I don't know what my constant is, so I'm going to call it c. And what we do then is we equate the constants, okay? So we look at both sides to see what we've got. Now in this case we've got 6 here, positive 6. So I'm expecting then to have 6 this side. Now you've got to remember then, how do you get a constant? Well, it's just multiplying those last terms together, isn't it? Okay, so minus 2c. Alright? That's what you get there, minus 2c. Alright? No other way of getting a constant there, because everything else will involve x. So minus 2 times c, don't forget the minus, is minus 2c when you multiply them. And then the constant then, well, if you take that minus 2 over, you divide by minus 2, so you get minus 3 as your answer for c. C's got to be minus 3. Equate then the x squared. Now in front of the x squared here is a 2, so you're expecting them, you're expecting to get 2 in front of the x squared here. So when I multiply these out, if you think about it, if I multiply that by that, that will give me bx squared, okay? I'll have a b in front of the x squared, okay? And then when I get the x squared from here, I'd have to multiply these two, wouldn't I? So minus 2 times 3 is minus 6. So I've got bx squared minus 6x squared. So in front of the x squared, I've got b minus 6. That implies then that b is 2 plus 6, which is 8. Okay? So I can rewrite this then as 3x cubed plus 2x squared minus 19x plus 6 as x minus 2, okay? 3x squared plus 8x minus 3, okay? And then, when we figure this out then, we need to factorize this then further into 2 brackets. And when you do that, of course, the one method you could use is to put 3x in both brackets. Do the multiplying add thing, yeah? Okay. Now, of course, with this method, it's a bit more complicated, isn't it, when you've got a number in front of the x squared. So it multiplies, you've got to times these together, the 3 by that minus 3, so that multiplies to give minus 9, and it's got to add up to give 8. So 2 numbers that multiply to give minus 9 add up to 8. Well, it's 9 and 1, isn't it? And I think that needs to be a negative 1, so then it gives me 8. So positive 9 here, negative 1. But remember, with this method, because I times here, yeah, by the 3, I think of it then as sort of like paying back. So you divide by 3 then, and you'll notice in the first bracket here, I've got a factor of 3. So I can take 3 out, okay? It's a common factor. There's no common factors in the second bracket. Those 3's then will actually cancel. They'll always cancel what I'm dividing by, and I get my 3 brackets then factorized, okay? And it's job done, okay? You don't have to solve it, equals to 0. You just leave it like that. Part B then, it says find the remainder when f of x is divided by, okay, this function is divided by x plus 1. Now remember, okay, when you divide f of x by x minus a, okay, the remainder is f of a, okay? The remainder is f of a. Now, in this case, we've got plus 1 here, so that must mean my a must be minus 1, yeah? Because I got to have it in this format. I've got to have it as x minus a. So, in fact, my a is going to be minus 1, all right? Because that would produce the positive I've got there. So I just need to chuck in minus 1 into my cubic, okay? And again, I don't have my calculator, so I hope I get this right. This will be minus 3, that will be positive 2, so that's minus 1, that's going to be plus 19, so that will be 18 plus 6 is 24. Okay, check on your calculator. Well done.